The air in the Senate chamber buzzed with the subtle tension of old grudges, unspoken truths, and too many cameras. Even with the ceiling fans humming and the leather seats squeaking faintly under restless bodies, it was the silence before a storm that made everyone sit a little straighter. The hearing was about to begin, not just any hearing, but one that had become the epicenter of an ideological fault line in American politics. Senator Edward Kennedy, IV, adjusted his cufflinks with slow precision, a small ritual that helped steady the nerves that still clawed at the inside of his chest on mornings like this. He was no stranger to pressure. The Kennedy name didn't allow for anonymity, and neither did the legacy he carried. The room smelled faintly of polished oak, overused cologne, and something else more primal ambition. Across from him sat Senator Ted Cruz, sharpened and tense, always eager for combat. Cruz wore that familiar smirk, half dismissive, half calculating, and tapped his pen like a ticking metronome of confrontation. He wasn't here to ask questions. He was here to make headlines. A thin sliver of light caught the edge of Kennedy's family ring as he folded his hands on the table, just in time for the hearing to start. But let's go back, because this wasn't just about politics. Edward Teddy Kennedy IV had grown up in the ghost light of legends. Son of Congressman Patrick Kennedy, great-nephew to President John F. Kennedy, he had inherited not just a name, but a burden. His earliest memories weren't of lullabies or cartoons, but of men in dark suits, whispering about expectations. His mother had once told him, during one of her more vulnerable moments, that legacy was both a ladder and a leash. Teddy never wanted to be a politician, not at first. He had loved writing, the kind of deep, personal prose that cracked people open and poured out truth. But when his older cousin died of an overdose, Kennedy lost to pain that the public never saw. Something shifted. Teddy realized that silence could kill, and maybe, just maybe, a voice in the right place could save someone. That was his mission, public service through truth, not theater. Cruz, on the other hand, was born for the stage. Raphael Edward Cruz had built his career on confrontation, on soundbites, on rhetoric that scorched. He was brilliant, no one doubted that, but brilliance without empathy could turn cold, and in the last 5 years, Cruz had become ice. What drove him now wasn't conviction, it was relevance. He had seen his influence wane as newer voices rose on the right, more aggressive, more unfiltered. Cruz was fighting not just for ideology, but for survival in a party reshaping itself under his feet. Today's hearing was on AI regulation and the ethical boundaries of emerging technologies, dull to some, but critical to both national security and human dignity. Kennedy had taken months to prepare, digging into cases of algorithmic bias, drone warfare loopholes, and the quiet erosion of privacy. But Cruz saw it as a stage. When it was Cruz's turn to speak, the cameras zoomed in. "Senator Kennedy," he began, his voice smooth with that Texan lilt he weaponized so well. "It's become rather evident that your line of questioning is, how shall I put this delicately, impressively arrogant." A few gasps flickered through the chamber. "You've been lecturing our witnesses as if you hold the monopoly on truth. I understand your family name carries weight, but this isn't Camelot, it's Washington. And in Washington, we earn our respect." The words landed like fists across the table. Cruz leaned back, pleased, as if he had delivered a final blow. The silence that followed was unbearable. Even the stenographer paused. Then Teddy looked up. The light caught the flecks of gray just starting to show at his temples, and for a moment, he wasn't the polished senator or the grieving cousin. He was just a man, standing against the old machinery of ego. With a voice low and clear, he said, "Senator Cruz, arrogance is assuming people care more about your insults than the lives at stake in this room." Silence, then a low murmur. Cameras caught it. Journalists tweeted it before the echo even faded, but what mattered was the change in the room. Suddenly, the hearing wasn't a game anymore. That line, that one simple, devastating truth cut through not just Cruz, but everyone watching. But this wasn't just about a quip. After the hearing, Teddy retreated to his office, his chief of staff Marisol waiting. Marisol, a brilliant strategist who had once turned down Silicon Valley millions to work in public policy, had been with him since day one. She reminded him often that his strength wasn't in shouting louder, it was in listening deeper. That night, she showed him a letter. It was from a teenager in Michigan, Ava. She'd watched the hearing with her father, a factory worker terrified of losing his job to automation. She wrote about how Kennedy's voice made her feel heard for the first time. "I didn't understand the tech stuff," Ava wrote, "but I understood what you meant. You made someone care." That letter broke him. He wept. Not just for Ava, but for his cousin. For the countless Americans like her. For the impossible weight of having to turn tragedy into hope, day after day. Meanwhile, Cruz retreated to a hotel bar where he nursed a drink and read headlines that didn't mention his name first. He wouldn't say it out loud, but something about Kennedy's words stuck with him. Maybe it was jealousy. Maybe it was guilt. Or maybe he recognized the truth in them, however much it stung. In the weeks that followed, Kennedy pushed forward a bipartisan bill, co-sponsored by a reluctant, but ultimately moved, Cruz to create an independent AI ethics oversight board. It wasn't perfect, but it passed. And the subplots, there were two. One was Marisol's quiet battle with cancer, a diagnosis she kept hidden until the bill passed. Her courage, her quiet sacrifice, became the backbone of Kennedy's next speech on healthcare transparency. The other was Ava, the girl from Michigan, who ended up winning a national essay contest inspired by that hearing. She and her father were invited to Washington. Teddy met her in the rotunda. She wore a thrifted blazer and held her father's hand like it was a lifeline. "You made me want to be brave," she told him. And in that moment, all the noise faded. Teddy Kennedy IV wasn't a shadow of a legacy. He was a voice in his own right. One that had pierced through arrogance, grief, ambition, and fear to remind the nation that politics, at its best, is service. The story didn't end with applause, it ended in quiet resolve. And that one line, it wasn't just a shutdown. It was a beginning. Let me know if you'd like a transcript version formatted for YouTube narration with pauses or stage directions, or even a follow-up story.